Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope you're all comfortable where you are. Before anything else, I'd like to maybe give you a little bit of information about myself. Aside from that, I am the designated academic director of the Premier Leadership Institute. Just for your information, I am currently based in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE. I am also an academician, just like Dr. Winston. And I am currently an associate professor at the Al Ain University here in the College of Business. And of course, prior to that, I was with the University of San Carlos for a long time before I decided to move over here. Um, Earlier, John introduced me. Well, mentioned that the speakers are sought after speakers, but I don't think that I I qualify. I qualify, but just the same, I'd like to give what I can, and I'm tasked this afternoon to synthesize and to also provide a better context of why the Premier Leadership Institute exists and what for. Um, Before I do that, I'd like to start by introducing the topics that I'm going to discuss. If the my PowerPoint slide will be shown now. So if you see, I want the theory of leadership to be linked to performance. In other words, I hope that we will be able to really bring down these uh, concepts on the ground and translate this into results, because I think that that's essentially what we want. Yeah, that these leadership theories, you know, are transformed into behavior that produce the kind of result that we want for our society, even for ourselves, for our businesses, for our industry. So the next slide will show you the how I tried to organize this. So I'm going to start, of course, by sharing with you the theories of leadership. I'm not going to be taking up the whole day, of course. You know, if you're going to study leadership, if you just Google it, you can be directed to 1,000 resources, and you know, at the end of the day, what do you really take out of it? And then, but essentially, what I want to do here in a few minutes is to marry the two concepts together. We were Dr. Winston talked about thought leadership, and then the Vice President Rene introduced the idea of servant leadership. And there is a very good reason why we are highlighting these two concepts, because these are actually the foundation of the establishment of the Premier Leadership Institute. So I am going to integrate these two concepts, and we are going to discuss it as leadership as philosophy. I'm going to talk about leadership as competency, leadership in change, and then finally we will I hope to bring home the point that leadership must produce results. So in the next slide we will see that the study of leadership, literature on leadership, do not really agree on one universal definition. We can read about so many kinds of leadership. In fact, the first theory of leadership was what is called as a great man theory. In the past, they thought that leaders are born, that that leaders are not made, that leaders are born with the right traits and the ability of leading, and that when you are born you have it. But that was the original thought. But the study of leadership realized, of course, that it is not so. Although the trait theories, the trait theories, this literature will also tell us that even if we recognize that leaders are not born, there are in fact attributes or characteristics that are shared by effective leaders. So the study of different leaders, they were able to identify certain attributes that are common to effective leaders. Yeah, but also as we continue to study leadership, realize that traits are not enough to define who the leader is. Leaders also can be observed in terms of their behavior. So you have also a set of theories defining leaders in terms of their behavior. Like for example, leaders must have certain technical skills, certain human skills, certain conceptual skills. But again, it is not enough. We have to put the leader in a context, how the leader actually behaves in situations, how the leader rise in certain situation. Do we need leaders every day, or do we need leaders only in times when there's change occurring, and we know that this time is really that time. Um, in other words, the study of leadership can be, in the next slide, can be integrated, I think, into three questions. If we are going to define the leader, we can define the leader in terms of who the leader is, that is his traits. We can also define the leaders in terms of his behavior, what he does. And then we can also define the leader in terms of when his leadership or her leadership actually occur. What are the situations that require leadership? So if we are going to integrate all of the literature on leadership, we can actually come down to these questions. So if we are going to ask these questions and we're going to answer these questions about a leader, then we shall have described him more comprehensively, more completely. So I'd like to go to the first question and see if I can define who the leader is. In the next slide, before I start talking about thought leadership and servant leadership, I'd like to maybe just a very simple statement is that a leader is a leader because people follow the leader. If you don't have any followers, you are not a leader. So a leader is someone people follow. Yeah, and of course people have many reasons for following someone, and generally we can even say that when you like someone, when you admire someone for his ideas, for his behavior, we are probably going to follow the leader. We are not going to follow someone we don't like. We are not going to follow someone we admire. So what is the core then of the leader's person? And I believe that a leader needs to have a philosophy. And if we all want to be leaders, at the end of the day, it is not the philosophy of other leaders that we want to have. It is building our own philosophy as leader. What is a philosophy? It is your explanation. This is your philosophy explains why you have to behave a certain way. A philosophy explains why you are making a certain decision based on many options. Your philosophy will justify your action. And therefore, I think what we need to really do is find our own philosophy as individuals. And there are so many literature that you can find, but at the end of the day, it is what you value and what you believe that will matter in your own leadership. Thought leadership and servant leadership, in my mind, are inputs for philosophy. Yeah, inputs for your philosophy. The vice president focused on a certain quality of a servant leader. A servant leader is someone who is selfless, who does not think of his or her own interests, but puts the interest of others. Yeah. And we hope in the Premier Leadership Institute, we hope that our leaders would have this in their as their philosophy, that they are there for others, that they take they care for the well-being of other people, that they are selfless, that they listen to what people actually need, that they are concerned about what is good for people. And on the other hand, you have also the thought leadership, which focuses on leadership in thought. It's thought leadership, I think, basically is leading people to think. What is in our thoughts? Our thoughts, we have ideas in our thoughts. A thought leader is somebody who is constantly learning from his from the different aspects of his life, his experience, and then he has a different way of thinking. He puts things together, providing a different perspective. Um, he takes the risk of actually communicating these ideas to others, and tries to convince people that this idea is better. And I think that if we combine these two together and become part of our philosophy, that we value creativity, we value innovativeness, we value taking risks, we value, but most importantly, uh, all these is oriented towards making a better business, making a better country, making a better world, making people better generally. So in the Philippine in the premier sorry in the Premier Leadership Institute, these two philosophies, I'd like to call them, we try to put them together to define who the leader is that we want to nurture, to build, and to support. In fact, I sort of coined the word thoughtful servant leadership as a way to combine these two, because there are just too many labels to leadership. At the end of the day, what really will become performance is what the person believes and what the person values about leadership. So if you believe that the ideal leader is someone who is creative, who initiates thinking about how to improve things, if you believe that leaders should be putting the interest of people in front and working towards that, then you are all thoughtful leaders. The next slide. So this is what we wanted in Premier Leadership Institute. In fact, the mission of Premier Leadership Institute is to support and inspire the emerging generation of change makers and servant leaders through leadership and management education, but founded on the philosophies of servant leadership and thought leadership. The next slide. In the next slide, I'd like to focus on leadership as competency. Now, trying to bring down philosophy into something that is more tangible. What is a competency? And we talk about knowledge, skills, and abilities. Competency, if leadership is a competency, it is a combination of certain knowledge and certain skills and certain abilities that, when combined together, will allow the leader to perform successfully. Because this is, I think, what we all want at the end, to see results from leadership, not just people enjoying the limelight because they are leaders, but that the results themselves speak for their leadership. It's interesting. I'm reading a book now on grit by Duckworth, I think that's the author. She talks about passion and perseverance more than knowledge, skills, and abilities, which I think is a differentiates leaders. Yeah, whether you are of course, from the background we have to think that a leader is from the thought leadership and the servant leadership, and how this becomes the foundation for this competency. So as I said, leadership is competency. Yeah, leadership is competency. It has to become result. It has to become result. But aside from knowledge, skills, and abilities, which as we heard Dr. Winston say, knowledge, skills, and abilities, they can change. But I think what does not change would be your philosophy. What does not change will be your motivation sourced from that philosophy. So you are passionate about helping others. So you are passionate about learning. So you are passionate about creating content, creating ideas, and convincing and persuading other people to change their mind and to accept your ideas. Next slide. In the next slide, I'd like to focus on these two programs now that PLI is offering. Knowledge, skills, and abilities can be taught. In other words, leadership can be taught. And the Premier Leadership Institute has put together these two programs with the view of providing the learner a rich resource that will enhance his or her knowledge and skills and abilities. But what I realize is that you can enhance knowledge, skills, and abilities, but you cannot really teach passion. You cannot really teach perseverance. It all comes from your motivation, from your philosophy. Yeah, if you are passionate about something, that's something that you will have to take care of as an individual. Yeah, so if we hope that if we can convince you that thought leadership and servant leadership are important in this VUCA times, as Dr. Winston said, in this time of change. We invite you to take these courses to improve, to enhance your knowledge, your skills and abilities, but most importantly, we want you to have the right motivation, from your passion, from your philosophy. Next slide. So in these times of volatility, in these times of uncertainty, in complexity, in ambiguity, we need leaders who can give us a clear vision of the future. So despite and in spite of all this the chaos that we're experiencing, change bring us unstructured problems. Yeah, change bring us unstructured problems. What are unstructured problems? Many of the problems that we are facing now, we have not really faced before, and therefore we find ourselves in situations where we don't know what will be the best way. Thought leaders would be those who will take the risk, who will have the courage to actually think about this, to actually learn more about this, and to offer solutions to unstructured problems. And when you offer solutions to unstructured problems, you end up with the possibility that you will actually fail in these solutions. And that's why the thought leader is somebody who takes a lot of courage, because he knows that there is a possibility of failure, who really knows exactly how to navigate in times of change. If you want change, you have to create the change. You have to be the change. This is what we want for our leaders. Thought leaders and servant leaders are the change that they want to happen. They put themselves forward and they become the example of the change that they want to happen. They also do their best to create a culture based on shared values. They will not force anybody. A servant leader and a thought leader will not force anyone, but will try to convince them, will try to persuade them, yeah, to share the same values. And especially the servant leader who is very emotionally connected to people. Yeah, the servant leader is someone who is emotionally connected to people. She or he is very aware about what people are feeling, and he or she does not use position of power. And that means that we can all be leaders, even if we are not manager, even if we are not vice president, we are not CEO. We can all become leaders using our personal power. And what will be the source of that power? I think the source of that power will be your passion. The source of that power will be your perseverance. The source of that power will be your competency, which we can all actually work for. Yes, the next slide, please. I'm going to be finished in, yes. Okay. So just like what the Dr. Winston did earlier, I have here also a sentence that will in other words, summarize what leadership is as performance. A leader in a given situation engages in behaviors that produce results. This is what leadership is as performance. So we learned that a leader is somebody who has traits. A leader is someone who has the philosophy, and we want the leader to incorporate thought leadership and servant leadership as philosophy. Now, given that philosophy, the leader will be in a context, yeah, in a situation. And this situation now is a situation of change. And this situation requires thought leadership. This situation requires servant leadership. In situations of change, I have to say this, in situations of change, just like the pandemic that we just experienced, we leave dead bodies behind. When we make our choices as leaders in business, we leave bodies behind. But if you are someone who espouses servant leadership, you will not want dead bodies behind. You want everyone to be able to survive. You want everyone to be able to transition, to to overcome the change. So a leader is in a situation of change, and he or she engages in behaviors. He makes choices. He acts. He acts on the issues. He acts on the problems, and he wants to produce results. Now, what are these results? These results are exactly the results that he envisioned in the first place, or she envisioned in the first place. A better business, a better industry, a better country, a better people as result. So we can judge. I think we can judge the leader in the results that he produces, and I think that results should speak louder than anything else. A leader doesn't have to say so much, but a leader can show results, and we will know that he is a leader. And I think there's a last slide now I'd like to share. Knowledge, we can all work towards improving our knowledge. We can all work towards improving our skills. We can all work towards improving our abilities. Yeah. But motivation is something that will have to be a personal responsibility. What moves you, what drives you is something that you will have to take care of yourself. And in the Premier Leadership Institute, we would like to promote thought leadership and servant leadership as foundation, of your leadership. That you will think of the welfare of people, that you will think of, that you put the interest of people more than your own, that you will be selfless, that you will be driven by a vision of a better business, a better industry, a better world, a better society. And if that is going to move you, you can you can survive. Knowledge, skills, and abilities are easy to acquire. And the Premier Leadership Institute is providing that opportunity, that platform. But apart from that, we want you to become part of a community of practice where we can all motivate each other. That we can make this as a movement, a thoughtful servant leadership, a movement that will change the lives of the people in our businesses, that will change our industry, and that will change the world. And with that, I thank you for your patience. Thank you very much for listening.